Okay, today I'll be sharing my practices at Miraikan, and we are doing quite a lot of things to make our museum accessible for everybody. My name is Akira Ohkubo, and I am working as a science communicator at Miraikan, which is a national science museum in Tokyo. And the official title of the museum is the National Museum of Emerging Science and Innovation. Okay, before I start my presentation, let me just briefly introducing myself. I am a science communicator at Miraikan, but actually my academic background is not science communication. I mostly studied molecular and cellular biology. I am PhD in cell and molecular biology. And actually I studied that I would say internationally, including 3 different countries, like Japan, France, and Switzerland, where I completed my study there. So, but actually during the study, I was always somehow captivated by storytelling and the public engagement. And that's how I turned my career from scientific research into science communication. So that's how I did first. I worked as an editor in a science outreach journal, then turned into a science communicator at Miraikan, which is my current position. So I would say I'm always keen to dive into new cultures. So I guess that's why I spent many years of my life in Europe. And now today I'm more keen into the deaf culture, and I start learning Japanese sign language, which is mostly related to my talk today. Okay, so I would wait a sec. Okay, I will be now talking about the museum, Miraikan. Actually, the Miraikan is not just a traditional science museum, but a futurium. As you may know it, the Mirai Japanese means future, and the kan means house. So together it means the house of the future. So, and the statement of the museum is here. The Miraikan is to be a platform where everyone joins and talks about the role of science and technology in society toward a brighter future. In the exhibitions, we mainly offer these 4 themes that include life, society, us, and frontiers. But obviously, this helps you to kind of discover a new world and what the future you wish could be. But that's not all, right? The future is always ever unknown. So the kind of ultimate question we want to ask is, what is the future you really wish to realize? So that's why our mission is to engage as many people as possible with a diverse set of background, including for example, aged population, or the people with disabilities for sure, and more. That's why obviously the improving accessibility is one of our major missions. And I would say 2021 was a pivotal time when we welcomed the new CED, who is Dr. Chiako Asakawa. She's on the picture, and she is outstanding engineer, and she's completely blind. Actually, when she was a child, she lost her sight. And now she keeps developing, the tech-driven tools to help blind and hard-of-seeing people. Actually, her products include the homepage reader, which is the world's first self-voicing web browser that obviously helps people, right? And the second is the AI suitcase, which is a navigation robot. I will describe more later on. And this is the device she's currently working on at Miraikan. Okay, so now I'll be sharing how we strive to turn into an accessible museum. For that, we use actually two unique assets of ours. One of them is laboratories we have within the museum. Actually, we have some, the 12 in-house laboratories, and those include some laboratories working on accessibility. So this is an example called the Miraikan Accessibility Lab. Actually, this lab is directly led by our director, Dr. Asakawa, and they are developing kind of tools for the blind and hard of seeing. One of the products is the AI suitcase again. This just looks like the normal AI suitcase, right? Actually, just holding this suitcase, you can really, explore and the reach the destination as you wish without seeing anything, because like this AI-driven tool speaks and guides you, and it's self-moving. So you may want to use it as an alternative of the white cane or a guide dog, for example, but this is completely alone. And on the right is called Obento Miraikan. How do we call it Obento? Actually, it's a 3D model, but like you unbox the bento box, you see, you can unbox this 3D model, because this is the 3D model of museum itself, where several the floors inside. So if you unbox it, you can explore each floor like more like detailedly. Also, this model just speaks, and so you can explore by hearing and by touching the details of the museum on the model. So this is some of the examples. And actually the accessibility lab is the in-house lab, but we also have some external teams working in the museum as well. One such example is called CrossDiversity Project, shown here. They are more like focusing on developing tools for the deaf and hard of hearing. I would focus on today as well. On the left, you find real-time captioning display called see-through captions. This is a communication tool. So when you speak to a microphone on the display, your words, like spoken words, immediately appears on the display. And this way, the hard of hearing people quickly understand what you're really saying. So this is how like communication works with the. On the right, you find another device called antenna. This is the unique, like tiny device you see in the picture. She wears this tiny device, and this device converts sound into vibration and light. And this way, you can kind of alternatively enjoy sound without hearing. So, no matter if you're hearies or hard of hearing, you can discover together the ways to enjoy sound. So this is the thing. Okay, now I'm coming to another asset we have toward an accessible museum, which is science communicators like me. So we are always like seeking ways to make museum experiences more engaging to our visitors. So in the context of accessibility, my colleagues and I, keep exploring, how to engage the deaf community, for example. Of course, like keep in mind that like deaf community is just an example of the many like minor communities we should work on and we are working on as well in the museum. I would just focus on this community today. So to this end, we are using the transparent real-time captioning display I just showed you, the see-through captions, because we were aware that, kind of most of our museum activities are not like really enjoyable by deaf and hard of hearing people, because they are mostly offered in spoken language, spoken Japanese or spoken English. So this is obviously problematic, right? So that's why we first decided to establish, the farm communication channel that does not rely on hearing. That's why we decided to use this, the communication tool. So again, when you speak, like for example, Japanese or English, your words quickly appear on the display. So this way you can do, real-time communications with the deaf people. And additionally, through the transparent display, you can also exchange facial expressions. You see, this is the also very important part of communication. But actually, the kind of small problem of this device is basically the communication happens unidirectionally. You see, I speak, Japanese, for example, and if the reader understands Japanese, it's okay. But if what she or he wants to say in sign language, for example, I really don't understand. This is the thing to keep in mind. Anyway, this is the tool, and I think it's important to mention as well is that this development team of this device includes a deaf person. And the team members says they they wanted to make communications with this deaf teammate much more fluently. That's why they just wanted to create such a communication tool. That was the pure motivation of this fantastic tool. And this way, using this tool, we decided to design a guided tour for deaf and hard of hearing visitors. So this is me in the picture doing the tool. So this is how we organized. Okay, so I will talk about more details of the tool now. And again, I remind you that this tool is mainly for unidirectional, the delivery. But we wanted to make our tool more engaging. So to engage our participants in dialogue, we did. This is what we did. Actually, the participants had a small whiteboard, and this way they could write down all their thoughts and ideas during the tour, and we asked them to share the ideas each other. So this way, we managed to make our tour and communications more mutual and interactive. So this is how it went. Okay, now I'll be sharing more practices and feedbacks we got from the participants. I really hope this helps you to do some, inclusive science communication in a very practical way. Okay, so in the very beginning, we quickly understood how challenging it could be to organize such a special tour using this communication tool. Because imagine, as hearers, you always communicate with people by, both hearing and seeing at the same time. But actually, deaf people do only see it. So this is actually obvious, but this makes a big difference in such a tour design. Because, for example, you see, actually words like this and that could be very ambiguous for them. You see, just imagine, you usually point at something, while saying this or that, right? Just simultaneously. But if you don't hear anything, if you say that, if you need to read what the guide says, the word just appears, as a visual information. If the guide says this, that word just appears on the display. But while you seeing this word on the display, you cannot see the gesture of the guide. This is really problematic. But actually, I would say us here is we are really like used to do such a thing, the using gesture while speaking at the same time. But this doesn't work at all, actually, in organizing such a tool. So you see, like we needed to separate like gesture and the speaking words, and completely separate. So, but this took us quite, a lot of trainings. Actually, it's you might understand this could be easy, but by doing so, it's really like, different thing. So and here is how we modify the tool. For example, this is just an example how we now manage to do this tool. Let's say like you are the guide and you wanna introduce a robot in the exhibit. So before we were doing like this, you first point at the robot behind you. And while doing so, you say, this is the robot I'm going to present. But obviously this doesn't work out. So now we say like this. First, you just say, I'm going to present a robot which is behind me. Then once you confirm attendees finish reading it, on the display, their text, right? So then you point at it just to ensure where the robot is visually. So you navigate them utterly, visually, only using visual information, step by step. Okay, so now we can communicate with our attendees using the written Japanese, I would say. But actually, that's not okay for everyone. From the feedbacks from our participants, we noticed that deaf kids hardly understand written Japanese as well because it's a second language for them. You see, even if you're born and grew up in Japan, if you live in a deaf community, the Japanese Sign Language is a primary language for them. And you see the Japanese Sign Language and spoken Japanese are completely different. They are two distinct languages. It's like, if you live in Japan, you may be able to understand, for the Japanese people, speaking English is quite challenging because it's, second language, you see. It's like that, for them. So Japanese is like English for us, I would say. But of course, like we didn't want to exclude deaf kids. That's why we decided to modify the tool. So here's the updated version. Actually, we did two big modifications. One is on the left. We now use visual explanations using kamishibai. For those who don't know the word, the kamishibai is kind of, you see, like a visual storytelling, you see, of like a manga, like, the storytelling using illustrations. We speak to tell about the story together with, the series of, the visuals and illustrations. In the picture, we are now actually explaining what space means for kids, so visually. And additionally, a translator is now with us, and he's now translating spoken Japanese to Japanese Sign Language. And this way, you see, like attendees can express themselves by using either written Japanese or Japanese Sign Language. So we offered more for them. So this is kind of working well, and I would say the tool is increasingly like acknowledged by the deaf community. So now we recently opened this tool to hearies as well. So like no matter if you have ability to hear, everybody can join the tool. And after that, we understood, you see, this update and modifications based on the feedbacks of deaf and hard of hearing people actually helped us to make a good design of the tool to hearies as well. So actually, this is the good thing for museum activities as well. Actually, for example, a participant said like this. He finds difficult to just keep listening to someone. He's hearing, and because like it's just a concentration issue. He sometimes miss information just by hearing, but actually by seeing and hearing what the guide said, he could better understood. This could happen to some people. You see, this is beneficial for some hearings as well, obviously. And I would like to share a very delightful scene we met during the tour in these two pictures on the bottom. There are three kids here. On the left, there the girl is hearing, and the brother and sister on the right are deaf kids. Actually, they three joined the same tour, and they became friends during the tour. And when the tour was over, they kept staying together. And after a while, this deaf boy started to teach how to count in Japanese Sign Language. And she was very curious, and this kind of interaction happened. You see, like we were really like impressed to see this kind of thing naturally happening in the museum, because obviously one of our ultimate goals is to offer a platform for such a multicultural communications and interactions. It was like a brilliant moment of the practice. Okay, here are some additional notes I would like to share with you. Again, like we kept like developing the tool just by listening to the voice of the participants, but that's not perfect yet. Actually, it will never become the perfect tool. It doesn't exist. So I think it's important to keep developing like kind of forever. We will keep hearing the voice of the participants and share ideas to make it better, more accessible. Yes. And the second point is like and the Twitter post featuring our tool using this display went viral at the time. And actually, like some people were like quite astonished, which was good. But actually, we noticed some people just said, "Wow, this tool is really cool." So with having it, we no longer need to learn sign language, because we can just speak and they will understand it. But obviously this is wrong. This is not what we wanted to say. You see, again, what about those who don't understand written Japanese, like deaf kids? Our tool is just an option, but this doesn't solve all the issues. We have to keep working on that. Okay. So after these attempts, these kind of things like results in the more like successfully for us to engage the community. We are kind of expanding our network to the deaf community, like the Miraikan is getting more and more acknowledged. And as an outcome, we recently created a video guide in sign language. You can watch it on the YouTube channel. So please have a look at it. Actually, we created this with a deaf director and deaf translator. So we working really together to make our museum accessible. And also alternatively, this was quite important for us to state that our museum is really respecting the deaf culture and the Japanese Sign Language as a language. It's an alternative of the see-through captions which I just mentioned. And another example is this. We recently organized a museum visiting day in collaboration with the deaf school. So we had several meetings with a teacher who is deaf as well, and we explore how to make museum experiences more accessible and delightful for deaf students. And it was quite nice things. And you can find some tips on the YouTube video as well. I put the link. Okay, I'm coming to the end. Sorry, maybe I was talking too much. So I would like to conclude my presentation with just a short message. This is it, and make it accessible, not for them, but with them. We are really working together with the deaf community. So this way, we every day discover new issues and alternative approaches. So we want to really put inclusive science communication into practice. I would suggest just do what you can do and work with the people you want to engage. So that's it. So thank you very much.